In some of my live streams, I've talked about like what my type of playstyle is in Marvel Champions, and I got a couple of questions about that on the Discord, so I wanted to do a video talking about the different types of playstyles that we have in this game. Hello and welcome to Nelson All Over Cards. I am Nelson, and today we're diving into kind of a meta discussion about what the types of playstyles are for Marvel Champions. And so this is not necessarily like the aspect, like I'm not talking about like leadership is like the big money allies or anything like that. I'm talking about more of a way that you would want to approach the game from a sit down as a player standpoint. What kind of got me thinking about this is the famous article talking about the different players for Magic the Gathering. And just as a quick rundown of that, there's the Johnny Ginny player who's like the combo player. They want to play what's cool and they want really awesome things to happen. There's Timmy Tammy who wants to win big, play all the flashy cards, all that cool stuff. And then Spike, who is there to play the best deck that they can so that they can win every single game. And while there are some parallels to the MTG playstyle types, I don't think it lines up exactly. The way that I see it, there are 4 different types of playstyles. So I wanted to talk about these types, kind of start a discussion on which ones you prefer, and then I'm going to talk about what my type of playstyle is as well. Now, different heroes are going to lean into some of these a little bit more than others, but that doesn't mean that you can't play outside of that suggested playstyle. And while you as a player may prefer one type of playstyle, that doesn't mean you can't flex into a different playstyle to optimize certain heroes. I do think that probably is a graph of a relationship between, ability to win and fun, right? So I think somewhere on that graph, you can, if you're playing your playstyle with a hero that's not compatible, you may be having fun. However, you may not be able to take down some of the harder scenarios. And in order to do that, you need to flex a little bit into leaning into the hero's preferred playstyle. So of these 4, I'm going to go through and talk about each one of them, kind of give some examples. So let's just start out with the first one. I'm calling the combo player. This is pretty close to like the Johnny Ginny playstyle from Magic the Gathering. And the easiest way to describe this would be a character that wants to build out the board with a lot of upgrades and supports before winning. So these typically are a little bit longer of games. They like, to play cards that combo off of each other, and they get the satisfaction out of triggering some cool stuff happening on the board. I think that this is probably best encapsulated with like the perfect defense build. So if you defend, you play desperate defense, then you get to stand up. And then you took no damage, so you get to trigger Unflappable to draw a card. You get to combo off of Hard to Ignore to remove 2 threat, and then 2 damage from Retaliate and Flow Like Water. And so like it's a very like, I do this action and it dominoes into a cascading effect. And that is really satisfying. That's my favorite way to play. It's kind of building something. It's very akin to like an engine builder in board games where you get to build something and then you get to run the engine, right? You get to crank it up and see what you built take effect, and that I think is just so very satisfying. I know it's not the strongest way to play for a lot of the heroes, but I do think that it is a very strong playstyle. Another example of this would be like the shield build, where it's a playstyle that has a lot of stuff on the table. It's a very slow build, right? Where you need to get Sky Destroyer, Agent 13, Dum Dum, Field Commanders, all of these cards onto the table so that you can sit down and feel the full weight of shield behind you. And so it's a very combo heavy, combo driven type of playstyle that can be really strong and really effective, but it does typically take a little bit longer of a time to play than some of the others. One of the other ones is a little bit quicker, and it's what I'm calling the power player. And power player seems really cool. I feel like that feels like a really cool way to, or something to be called. But okay, so power player feels like the Timmy Tammy parallel. So you want to run big events. You want to be ready for some crazy stuff to pull off. Like my mind goes directly to like a Hone Technique dive bomb player. Hone Technique is an upgrade that says that if you pay for a aggression event with a mental resource, then you get to add the cost of that event into the damage output of the event. So a Hone Technique that costs 4 and deals 7 and then 1 damage to everything on the table becomes a 11 and 5. Now that is so cool, right? Like that's epic. And You are absolutely fine dumping your entire hand to deal massive amounts of damage or, threat mitigation like a problem solvers, right? Like these big, epic turns is what you thrive on, right? The power player wants to thrive on these turns, and it can be really, really cool. It can be so satisfying. You finally build up, you get to pull it off, and then typically after one or two of those turns, you're probably looking at the end of the game, right? You probably beat the game. I think this is a really strong and feels pretty similar to like a rush strategy. So Star-Lord loves this type of strategy. Star-Lord's a power player, and he wants to, have these epic turns. The Blaze of Glory Guardian Rush strategy, right? Play Blaze of Glory, everyone gets +2 their attack and thwart, flip down so no one's taking the consequential. It's just a really fun way to play, right? And because this is a cooperative game, it's kind of fun to think about how these different playstyles can mesh at the table when they're sitting there together. So like in multiplayer, you can make sure that you are maintaining the field, you're throwing your entire hand to take care of the problem so that the combo player can set up, they're kind of the AD carry, and come in, and together you can win the game. When I said that there were 4 playstyles, I think that these are the main 2, the combo player and the power player. These are probably taking up about 80%, and this is a number that I've made up, right? Like I have absolutely no idea, just from conversations online and understanding and working with the community, I think it's about 80% of the players. People love to either be the combo player or the power player. And the next 2 are probably more fun than they are effective. So the combo player, the power player, you're probably looking at one of those 2 strategies to take victory from Ronin, right? Like if you are looking at Ronin, you're probably running 1 or 2 or probably a blend of those to beat some of these more difficult villains. Now the next 2, you're gonna have a little bit more fun, I think. The next one that I'm going to call out is what I'm calling the niche player. I view this as kind of a side branch of the Johnny Ginny playstyle, and it's probably my secondary playstyle. So in that MTG article, they talk about how you have a primary and a secondary playstyle. So I'm probably a combo niche player is kind of how I think about how I enjoy playing the game. I feel like I can flex into a situation if need be, but I'm having the most fun when I'm sitting down as a combo niche player at the table. The niche player is going to be trying to find random cards or lesser used cards and try and make them work. So like the Johnny Ginny, they want to find something and just tweak it and make sure that it works. Like I think in the article they talk about how they want to make a card work because everyone says it cannot. And that's kind of what I feel like is the niche player. So you're going to go out and try and figure out how to do something new. I think a lot of the most creative deck builders probably fall under this category. Now, I don't know a lot of them, but just seeing how they utilize some of the cards that are coming out or that have been out with new heroes that we have not seen before makes me think that they have a niche player's mindset, right? So someone who's able to see the interactions of an older card with a newer hero probably has some sort of niche player mindset going forward. I love this type of play style, and in the Discord server that I'm a part of, which there's a link below that I highly recommend you join because I love it, we've just started this kind of like a deck factory is what we're calling it. So on a weekly basis, we put a new card out that's a little bit underloved, and we see how people can make a deck that features that card. So if you're a niche player, if you like to build those types of decks, join. And let's make some cool decks. Like the first deck was Hangar Bay and then Recuperation. So we're seeing kind of how we can figure out and build into some of these older cards, and hopefully if you're a niche player you can come help us out with that. And then finally, the last one is the Thematic Player. Now this is a player who is looking to immerse themselves into the game and utilize cards that kind of make sense. So like Captain America Leadership is the only way that you'll play because he's the leader and you're gonna run Avengers, and cause it makes sense, right? We're able to play this game that has a third-party IP of Marvel, right? So we probably all enjoy Marvel when we're playing this game. I know a lot of people got into this game because of the theme, and now either they're staying because they love the theme or they're staying because they love the gameplay. It doesn't really matter, but there are people out there that only want to do things that are thematic and cool and that they've read in the comics or seen in the movies. And so a thematic player is going to have a really hard time playing Hulk outside of aggression, because that's just blasphemous, right? Like, Hulk smash, right? We want to put him in aggression because that is thematic. And so as a thematic player, you're looking to make things work. You may be playing through different heroes to try and recreate something that you've seen, some cool matchups like Black Widow versus Taskmaster, Quicksilver crossing over into the mutant territory because he was a mutant at one point and he worked with the X-Men. These are the type of things that you're looking to set up to have a thematic gameplay. While I enjoy thematic gameplay, it's definitely not at the top of my list. I am fine running the craziest mod sets in the weirdest villains combined with X-Men who have never seen the villain before. I don't really mind from a gameplay perspective. However, I do find it fun to set up a thematic game every once in a while. Now, bringing us back to our MTG parallels, there really isn't a spike parallel because a lot of these playstyles are effective with different heroes, right? So the spike deck, again, meaning they're going to be playing the strongest deck possible and they want to win every single tournament, is going to be different for different heroes. So SPDR's spike deck is a combo player's dream, right? While it's more in line with a power player is the spike deck for Nova, right? Like, you aren't necessarily building out Nova with all of these upgrades and supports. That's not necessarily his strongest deck, right? It's a power player, dive bomb, hone technique, all of this good stuff for Nova, whereas SPDR wants to put everything on the table, build, and then roll into victory. And so the spike deck also doesn't really have a huge parallel because it is a cooperative game, and so it's kind of hard to sit down at the table across from someone and say, I'm going to beat you in this game, because that's not really how the game works. But so the spike deck doesn't have a perfect parallel, and the strongest deck can flex so drastically between different heroes. So those are the 4 different playstyles that I see and I think that are in this game. What type of playstyle are you? Like, let me know in the comments if you're one of these 4, if you think that you fall outside, if you're a combo of the 4, let me know. I'm really curious, because this was just something that I've been saying as this is my type of playstyle, and I guess I didn't really know what that meant until I sat down and started making this video. Me personally, I am the combo niche player, and I'm really curious to hear which player you are. I'm also kind of interested, and maybe this could have been cool to talk about in the video, but here we are, about what playstyles work well together, and if there are certain heroes that fall within that playstyle. Like, what is Captain America's best? What's Captain America's spike deck? Is it a combo player? Is it a power player? Is it a niche player? That may be another conversation that could be fun to have sometime in the future. Yeah, so let me know in the comments what type of playstyle you are. If you enjoy this content, go ahead and give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way in helping me continue to produce more content. I appreciate you all. Thank you for hanging out. Have some fun playing Champions, and I'll see you around. Peace.